really, when you start something up, you got to think, where is this thing going? What's the destination? And one is building a great organic company, and the other is, and they can be side by side, and that is, the actual exit plan.
Now, what about AI? What are you working on with AI?
AI has been with us for years. I mean, it's really the basis. And you talk about algorithms. We're still working on. I mean, we're bolting it on to certain things, but only really those types of things that people are familiar with the use, so they actually use them, versus it working too much behind the scenes and then it being a surprise that it's really not human. So we're still working on humanizing the experience of what's the internet today, and for that matter, the internet. So
Well, what's your long-term play as far as just life and personally in general?
certainly I'm traveling more now. So short and long term is really much more adventures, travel wise, and certainly doing business out and about. And I'm doing that, not trying to perfect, what is personal pleasure, whether it be a different country or domestic. And, there's some great places domestically that, always need to be uncovered.
Hey, Behar, we're going to get into branding. We're going to get into his origin story of how he started. We're going to get into ion intelligence. We're going to talk about, AI, which is fun. I love all those things. I love branding. I love AI. What's more to life? If you want to grow your business, or if you want to, get a YouTube channel, or do well on TikTok. That's another one.
That's great.
So let's get back to the origin. We're all, I didn't tell you this in the pregame, but we're always trying to find the algorithm of people's success. So that's why we're going to have a nice conversation about yours and how you got to where you are. So let's go back to the beginning. Tell us where you're from, what did mom and dad do for a living, and tell us what was the impetus for your business, and let's get into it.
Great. Well, I was born on the Palos Verdes Peninsula, Southern California, good old San Pedro, and then, of course, migrated from there to Hermosa Beach, and from Hermosa Beach, San Diego State, proud Aztec,
Wow.
and
Southern California boy
member of
through.
the, what's that?
Southern California boy through and through.
Yeah, and started a couple companies out of San Diego during and then after San Diego State, and exited a couple great companies, and then San Francisco from there. Great time in San Francisco. At that time, San Francisco was a little different environment at that point, and then migrated back to Los Angeles and travel all over the place. But building companies, which I love. Business is in the heart and soul, but just as love is too. So.
All right, let's go. What do your mom and dad do for a living? I want to know about that stuff.
Yeah, so my dad, a serial entrepreneur, he started up a number of companies. And of all things, before we had laptops and smaller computers, he was doing sheet metal for mainframe computers and coding those parts and panels for large mainframe computers. And he also revolutionized, if you remember, the smaller trucks. He did what was the camper shell for those small trucks coming in from Japan, and that was a real big business as well. And then from there, a company that created the shimmering, it was called Solar Ray, that you see on the back of those trucks, like sparklets. So it shined in the light, and it was a revolutionary kind of on display outdoors product for signage, and also on trucks and stuff. And yep, and then went into real estate, and also then at that point was in the lumber and hardware business, just before Home Depot really kicked ass on everybody in the marketplace. And yeah, so that's and then my mom was right by his side, supporting in so many ways, not just as a great mom, but also kind of the administrative side. So they were able to go ahead and travel a lot together as a long time marriage. And of course, they're now passed away, unfortunately.
What did you want to do when you were in high school? Did you know?
What did I want to do?
Yeah. Did you know?
Yeah, you know what? Even at that point, it was really all about identity and branding, believe it or not, with all the sports teams that I was involved with, and certainly leadership type roles. At that point, it was early stage journalism and media. Won a bunch of awards there, and it
Mhm.
was pretty clear that I was headed into what was the media and then technology space. And then to build, big brands from there. So, and as soon as I got into college, started up a company. It scaled rapidly.
What was this?
You know what? It was called Team Greek, and it was in the Greek business of all things, fraternity and sorority merchandising. And it was pretty amazing. I certainly had joined a fraternity right away, which was
What year was that?
incredible. Pardon?
What year was that? Team Greek.
I'm going to be dating myself at that point, but that was 1984. So
The
that
website, isn't there like a website, like a big website, like something Greek is like maybe it's Team Greek, maybe is it?
Well, I don't think so, but the Greek system is alive and well,
No, good for
and
you.
it turns out leaders, of course, and achievers, and certainly I'm a big supporter of that system now.
But you were ahead
Uh,
of your time actually, because that's a website. I've seen a website that's all they sell is Greek like merchandise.
yeah, just like so many markets, there's all sorts of merchandise out there, and but then again, yeah, if you've got your affinity, whether you're in a fraternity, sorority, or alum, yeah, there's a handful of places to buy it, and certainly support of the system. Still, big advocate.
All right. So then after Team Greek, what are you going
Yeah.
to do for that?
Well, I got to tell you that there was an offer I couldn't refuse.
To buy
Uh,
Team Greek?
yeah, to buy Team Greek, and we Team Greek, we employ just tons of people on campus, primarily Greeks, and because they got it, and we're part of the whole collaboration and direction of it. But the timing was right because I discovered this sport called beach volleyball, and yeah, I was somewhat of a player, but I was definitely more into the business. I saw a huge void, and that was a company that called iDig that started from there, from campus, as I was graduating, and that company went worldwide. 50 states, all
The
50
name of
states,
it?
specialty stores, department stores, top tier department stores.
Huh?
Pardon?
What was the name of the company?
It was called iDig. Yep.
I
Like,
did.
what do you dig? iDig, IDIG. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a move in volleyball, both indoor and beach, and it was great name, caught on. The logo, volleyball and sunglasses, was huge. It was right in the lifestyle element that we needed, the market, the athletes, and we sponsored top pros, hundreds of tournaments a year. Again, scaled worldwide, started a couple of tours, um, multiple foreign countries, and then that went to exit mode, and that was a great exit. And then from there, that's really when the internet started kicking into gear. And
Sold I dig what in like 94, 95?
pardon?
What year did you sell I dig?
Yeah, that was in actually 92. So, it seems like a century ago. It was last century.
Yeah, it was. I
And
remember, this gives us a journey though, because the internet starts in 95, 96. So,
yep,
what'd you do? You sold that after you, so at this point you sell two companies. You're like, oh man, I feel pretty
yeah,
good. Look what I did.
yeah. Well, I was going up to the Bay Area a fair amount. Just there was friends, a lot of business up there. I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go give this a whirl." And so I was a single guy in San Francisco. And it was a great time because it was the start of tech. I did take some time off. I was able to get a lot of reading in, ease into what was next. Basically, I wanted to build brands. And for that matter, yeah, I definitely had some brands up my sleeve of my own and our own, but um, I want to build brands for other people at a high scale. So that was a really exciting time because of my licensing background. Was able to get a few things accomplished in the world of sports and tech. Um, and it was about licensing, and that is licensing companies to take on the intellectual property that I either had developed or was had the rights to. And there's a couple of big wins in the Bay Area that were really exciting, but right in my wheel. So I was able to choose the things that I wanted to do that was in my wheelhouse. And it was some of my reputation was to pulling off some great ventures, and so that was good. So it was in the middle of what was going on in Silicon Valley besides just the city. And so the Pac-10 at the time, that was, of course, now the Pac-12 was helped make that. Of course, that was the Conference of Champions. So between the Pac-10 in creating a leading business development and licensing platform for all the schools and the conference, even designing the famous logo that billions of eyeballs, millions of products sold, but also adorning stadiums and arenas in the entire western part of the United States and on people's backs. And that was an exciting time because it was sort of that lifestyle brand approach, not just this great athletic conference. And then was at the early stage of Hotmail. I kind of got pulled in a few different directions because, I wore these different hats. In a way, I was this transplant from the beach up into what was this more sophisticated, even tech environment, even though I had a great time in the outdoors and stuff. But yeah, it was balls of the wall in some of those ventures, and it was a great time. It's
So
beautiful.
96, 97, Hotmail, that,
Yeah.
AOL, like that
Well,
time.
yeah.
What's going on?
AOL.
What's going on with you after? What do you get into after that?
Well, after there was that Microsoft acquisition of Hotmail that was pretty historic at the time.
Did you have anything to do with that, or that was just like in general? You're just talking about that time of.
Or
Were you?
no, I mean, it was those things that I caused to happen.
Oh, really? I don't know about that. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, it was a big, growing team, of course. Hotmail, and it was a killer app. I mean, you're talking about web-based email that, of course, today it's part of everyone's life and has been the last 20
My
years.
wife still has a Hotmail account.
Is that right?
Yeah, she does.
Well,
Now,
it's interesting.
What did you do specifically with that?
Well, they call me the secret weapon. So I actually developed first of all some of the information that was in which we built decks off of for investors, and that was part of the attraction of capital. And you're talking about a great team and brilliant team that was there. That I was able to support. And it was even before some of the brilliance came into the company because it was part of what we had to fund. But and then I developed the business development process of what was a web-based advertising platform for, of course, to help fund the email and the technology, and put together some very strategic partnerships in bringing that product into brands' hands, even creating some sports properties around it that would accelerate the subscribers. That time, there wasn't any real models to follow. So, how to create those models of both the subscriber generation as well as what is the business development partnership type activity that, I had to kind of borrow from my history at that point in sports and brand partnerships, et cetera, to get the numbers up. So that was, and then I was certainly at the heart of the brand itself and the design of that brand that was attractive to a company that eventually acquired it. So yeah,
Wow.
so it was a great time, and
Building
um,
something and it gets acquired, building something like a third time,
yeah,
a fourth time, and you must feel, hey, this feels pretty good every time this happens. You build something,
yeah,
you'll get a nice little payout from that. It's these nice peaks that you get on top of a mountain after
yeah,
you climb it.
yeah. I think what's the heart of it, besides just the brand, is those things that have a chance to exit that will change people's lives, improve people's lives, and so been pretty fortunate. There's some good projects and good technologies, and just great people. So
Okay,
yeah,
so then
and there is, Mike, really, when you start something up, you got to think, where is this thing going? What's the destination? And one is building a great organic company, and the other is, and they can be side by side, and that is, the actual exit plan. You hear about that in startups, and it's people's dream to build something they can exit from. Um, but that you really have to look at what those opportunities are, um, whether it be getting under somebody else's skin or just something that would bolt on to an existing portfolio that helps that company better succeed. And that was at that point. But there's methodologies there, and it's important to know those methodologies. So
so
yeah,
we're only at like what, 90,
still in the '90s.
still in the late 90s, right?
Yeah,
What's happening there? Did you get
yeah.
out of that? Then what happens?
Well, I made the choice to motor back into Southern California.
Mhm.
And so it was good moves. It was kind of a family decision to do that. And at that point was the early stages of Ion. I was doing iBrands, was very early with
What's
using the
iBrands?
I. Well, iBrands was a series of brands. Everything has a layer. It's interesting. But the iBrands was I dunk, I kick. You remember I did I dig, and that was for volleyball and beach
Yeah.
volleyball, and I swim, and of all things, I jump as well. The equestrian business. So these were these niche brands, and there was that corollary to the internet when if you recall, the I and the E were used in
Right.
front of things, and it was pretty interesting times. The domain space was opening up, and was open. And so I just looked into the future. Pipes had to open up. I saw that coming of what is today's routine streaming and stuff like that of the world of content. And basically came up with the Ion and developed what was this three-letter brand that is meant to be very collaborative and very powerful in terms of what it does, what it means, and not just as a media platform, but also as an interactive collaboration platform for towns and affinities, globally. So, and still working on that. Have a number of things that that was the vision. So we have a production business, we have a distribution business, certainly what is a brand partner business that is part of the fuel behind what we do, and that's enabling folks to succeed
What's the
using
URL? Is it ion.com?
ions.com. Yeah, I mean, ions.com would be one of our thousands of domains, and part of our asset structure. So yeah.
So that's basically where we land today, is that with iIntelligence that I'm looking at, you're wearing
Yeah.
that t-shirt. And now basically you said you have production companies, you have, I mean, How would you describe it? What's the one-liner for
There
ion.com?
is no one-liner.
No?
It gets a little gnarly because, um, it's a hyper local, hyper targeted network. And the fact that we've layered rather than just being a platform for others. I mean, what's really next is some would say it's like thousands of YouTubes where the content creator community now has a real distribution process to distribute their content in many different ways versus a focused way. Let's just say like a YouTube or one of the other platforms, including, of course, Instagram and Facebook and X and stuff. So we're collaborative with those platforms, but that is also part of the distribution of what is the production that we then have and the distribution where others can distribute their content to. So, and again, our network is the network of champions. And so obviously we have a play in sports, and we have certainly a play in multiple other categories that then gets localized because everything is about local. It's where we live and we play. And so that's part of the enabling and the enablation of Ion is to have a piece of content or a show for that matter. We love shows and we love even creating and supporting the creation of shows because there's millions of them. And there's also those folks that have solid work, but aren't necessarily distributing effectively or monetizing. So that's then as a result what we do. And it's exciting. It's very scalable like that. So there's plenty of room for growth and like that kind of thing, you know.
Is your website your main point of contact, ions.com, or is it
Yeah, I mean, you can check out a lot of the stuff is at ions.com, and that's actually that's a growing environment, but we're rolling out and getting more serious also about our OTT platform, which would be Apple. What's that?
What's that?
It's over the top. It's basically alongside Netflix, et cetera, which are content as well as certainly thousands of shows coming through Ion would be seen through Apple TV, Android TV, Roku as part of our distribution opportunity.
What's the main genre of the content that you guys create?
Well, this is about lifestyle. So, I mean, it goes from sports to nutrition to health, family, kids. In fact, we're rolling out a number of animated series next month.
That's big, like Japan or not Japan, Korea, K dramas. It's like
yes. So I think what's important to know is our platform is about enabling those to succeed. So if that's something that somebody is interested in distributing, then come on in, and we're going to help support you to succeed. And it's all about succession and growing their business with them, and in incubation or incubation has something to do with that as well. Besides just great collaboration.
If you had to encapsulate what has helped you with your companies and how you branded them and how you got the message out there, what would you say? What's the great advice that you can give? What are some of the bullet points?
Well, I think we're working the best. Working to be the best. What else is there? And the main thing is you plan the work, you work the plan, and that's the heart of and soul of what we do. We plan and then we execute. A lot of folks who have their hopes and dreams and goals sometimes don't achieve them. And just as a kind of an entrepreneur, I want to help those folks succeed just by what I do, besides what our enabling platforms do. So I think what is the method to success is have the methodology, have the plan, and certainly look for those small wins as you look towards the big win. And that depends on what market you're trying to reach. But fortunately, technology is our friend. I could talk about AI. I'm still working on my own.
Well,
my
let's
own
talk
tel-
about it. Now, what about AI? What are you working on with AI?
well, so Mike. I mean, it's like AI has been with us for years. I mean, it's really the basis. And you talk about algorithms and such. I mean, it's what powers some of the big platforms that people use every day, every hour, every minute with their social media. And so I like to say, I mean, we've even sponsored some conferences, certainly at the alma mater, San Diego State, on AI, but at the same time, can't forget about human intelligence, and that's really where it begins. Of now, what do you want AI to do, and how to empower your world? So one thing is how it's already embedded in so much of our lives already, and it's just been sort of hidden, hiding in plain sight, if you will. And I can sort of point towards those uses, and I'm sure you've you know encountered so much yourself. But at the same time, our use of it, I almost want to unpack a little bit because um, I have this journalistic um, journalism in my background and media, and purity and authenticity. And what happens sometimes when unleashed too much to do the work, you don't always come up with that authentic result and outcome. So that's where human intelligence, and of course we like calling it eye intelligence, um, plays a role. So our role and our use of it, we're still working on. I mean, we're bolting it on to certain things, but only really those types of things that people are familiar with the use, so they actually use them, versus it working too much behind the scenes and then it being a surprise that it's really not human. So we're still working on humanizing the experience of what's the internet today,
Mhm.
and for that matter, the internet. So
No, that's awesome. Now let's talk about long term. What's your long term play here? Like when you think about 10, 15 years down the line, you're always going to be, creating and then and then selling, or what's your long term play as far as this life and personally in general?
well, certainly I'm traveling more now,
Mm.
which is good. And if you have a chance to, don't forget that laptop, mobile phone, you can be anywhere and working anytime unless you literally have to report, let's say, to a brick and mortar, depending on what industry you're in. So short and long term is really much more adventures, travel wise, and certainly doing business out and about. And I'm doing that, not trying to, I guess, affect what is personal pleasure, whether it be a different country or domestic. And there's some great places domestically that always need to be uncovered, and that includes food and such. But the next 30, 40 years is I see as just being helping others succeed, and traveling along the way and not feeling like I have to stay in good old Hermosa Beach,
Mhm.
for that matter, let alone Manhattan Beach. We've got offices here in the South Bay, but yeah, doing yeah, just spreading the wings. And I could say checking boxes, you could say bucket list type stuff, but I like the idea of seeing those people and seeing those events, the locations that we are, and getting out even in the RV a little bit too, not just hopping
Okay.
on a
More RV. Okay.
yeah,
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 that's nice. Well, let's
yeah.
go top five. Let's what are the top five ways? Because you seem like a guy that is really one of the people that are listening to this. I'm like, how did that guy scale those businesses? That's what, like the people, that fits a big pain point. So
Yeah.
what would you say is the top 5 ways to scale your business?
Well, first of all, you've got to have your brain wrapped around where you're headed. I can suggest, I mean, I can go like a 1 through 5, even though it really depends on the industry. But scale, it's what does scale mean to you? Is it selling, across the internet? Is it selling in brick and mortar? Um, is it just establishing millions of followers and friends and all that over social media? What is it transactionally that you're trying to achieve, whether it be, let's call it a business to business type product or service, or certainly a consumer product. So that's going to play a role in one of the first things you do to scale is where you're going. And then likewise, on top of that would be a plan, a real plan. And so a business plan, I can say that's business plan number one. Number two is the marketing plan strategy that actually determines what segments you want to reach and how big they are and what you consider to be hitting something at a high scale. It may mean that you're just interested in scaling, in having multiple locations of your store or being even a franchisee of a franchisor and scaling that way. Licensee of a licensor also. And then having something 3, which would be a void that you need to fill, you're trying to fill. There's got to be a void in the market. There has to be something you're disrupting. Of course, I like that word disruption. Not only does it have that great ion at the end of it, but what's existing or what isn't existing that you're trying to fill that you then need to go after that can be of scale versus just, be DOA or something, which is, and then it's literally, creating those platforms, whether it be content, whether it be working on the platforms digitally. Social media is a great way to scale, but you certainly need a place where, and a place where people go to. And it shouldn't necessarily be just another social media platform. You want to be able to kind of control that environment so you control the experience. And that way you're using what is media, social media, and third-party platforms as part of that scale. And where are we at now? Are we at 4? Are we at 5 yet?
No, we got
So,
one more.
yeah, but each thing. So, and then of course, in order to get to scale, it's how many people do you need? How many businesses do you need? And at what multiple to call it scale? And what is you're reaching your goals? And you need to have that established. Of course, that might be in the origin of the plan, but definitely keeping score. And it's just that hard work and smart work that's critical to scale, and then knowing where those destinations really are. And again, that just depends on what industry you're in and void you're trying to serve. I'll always say, Mike, that it doesn't matter. You don't need 1 million people, 1 million followers to have success. You just need to know who you're trying to reach and what that market really looks like. And it might be 25 chief executives. It might be 1,000 stores, and let them do the social media, or let their influencers. And I like the term "I influencer," which is kind of part of our puzzle. But yeah, so it's just making sure you're mapping it out of what is scaled. And at that point, if you then got some of those points met, there's a chance for you to exit. And not necessarily at the end game, but people see you coming, and they let them take you out as long as it's the right price.
Right, which you've done, and it's a wonderful journey to watch, and that's what people want to study is how you've done that. Tell everybody how to find out more about you and iIntelligence, because that's your next thing. That's your next, you like the first wave with the Greek, Team Greek, and then the second wave with the volleyball, and then now with you went to San Francisco, you were part of a team there. But you helped,
Well, we led. I mean, we led those things under our exclusive contracts by design. But yeah, I mean, everything's teamwork. I mean, having the right team around you,
right.
That's critical. Yeah.
Tell everybody how they can find more about iIntelligence and more about you.
Well, just hop over to ions.com. iIntelligence is embedded in all we're doing, certainly moving forward. So ions.com, and you could take a look at all the different leagues that we're involved in, particularly in sports, and iIntelligence will be embedded there too. And, again, it's the network of champions trying to support those that are bringing it, and just to rely on Ion. So
very nice and great domain name. He was able to grab it right there when it first happened. So ions.com. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And looking forward to hearing more about Ions and iIntelligence. And once that becomes a household name, because this is a guy that knows how to do it. So thank you so much.
Hey, we're in this together, Michael. So it's great. Thanks for having me. It's been fun. And let's keep it rolling.
Pleasure.
Thanks for joining us. Gear up for your next adventure and head over to Bolator.com to check out the amazing Bolo Pack and their other innovative outdoor gear. Catch you next time.